Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another video. Hope you're all doing well and keeping safe during lockdown. Today we're going to be talking about some recent Chelsea transfer news, but before we get into any of that, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit that like button if you're missing football like I am. The wait for its return goes on. But let's start off with Samu Chukwueze from Villarreal, the 20-year-old Nigerian international. He's a right winger. Interesting player. I've heard his name a lot, especially in my comments when I'm talking about other players in that position for Chelsea to recruit. He gave some quotes to Goal in an interview talking about his favourite team and saying that my favourite team in England is Chelsea. I was supporting Chelsea when I was young. When Chelsea lost that Champions League final against Man United, I was crying all through the night. I think nearly all of us were. That was a very painful experience as a fan. Probably one of the most painful I've had supporting Chelsea. But I wanted to bring up Chukwueze because I haven't really talked about him at all on the channel when I've referenced targets in this area. Just looking at some of his stats, 4 goals, 4 assists this season in 30 appearances. He's rated apparently under 30 million, but of course in the current market, that could be extremely inflated if Villarreal want a higher fee for Chukwueze. Interesting when you compare him to some of our wingers, you know, looking at his age and looking at his stats, similar stats to the likes of HUDSON-ODOI. Of course, HUDSON-ODOI has played less because of his injury, but you also have to take in consideration when we're talking about players from the likes of Villarreal, they're not a top team in La Liga, so you have to also understand that when you're looking at some of his stats. But looking at him, very exciting player, very direct, not frightened to take shots. He loves cutting in to his left foot. You know, he plays predominantly on the right, but you'll see a lot of his goals, he comes in, cuts onto his left foot and then shoots, which is something that HUDSON-ODOI I think is really good at as well. So he's not like other players, you know, he's not a creative winger. I'd say he's more of a very direct winger that could potentially later on in his career go into a centre forward role. You know, that he is a very direct player and that is something that excites fans. Very pacey, very energetic, a bit erratic given his age, but you can expect that, you know, still trying to find, you know, his best form, his best position. But, you know, talking about right wingers cutting inside on their left, we know Hakim Ziyech can do that very well, especially creating chances, whilst Chukwueze is a very more direct and attacking winger, very much looking to score goals, which is what Frank Lampard would want. And you're sort of looking at Jeremy Bogle. We've talked about Jadon Sancho. There's probably other names out there. Leon Bailey we've spoken about. And maybe Chukwueze could be an outside shout. You know, you're looking at maybe a lower fee than some of those players. And if both Willian and Pedro leave, Chelsea are going to need replacements. And Chukwueze, for me, could be an outside option that could turn out to be very good for Chelsea. If this player comes in, maybe doubles his numbers, it becomes a player, a real gem in terms of a transfer. And that's what we always talk about with Chelsea, is trying to find those hidden gems, trying to find those transfers, especially for a top club like Chelsea, it is difficult, but trying to find those deals that are cheaper, that can turn out to be very prosperous for your team. And Chukwueze could be that. Please let me know your opinions on Chukwueze, because he is an exciting player. He's an exciting winger that I think is very direct, but a bit erratic, and that is an issue. I think if he was to come in, a bit like how we've seen Kennedy in recent years, trying to find that right balance. And it's something that wingers sometimes really struggle with. You know, it's making that step up to the next level, you know, really trying to streamline your game and really trying to be much more clinical and much more deadly when you get on the ball, much more assertive and decisive. I think all of those things for wingers are so key, and especially at a club like Chelsea where you aren't going to be afforded as much space as maybe Villarreal get, and understanding, you know, that you're going to have to break down some deep defences. And can Chukwueze, if he was to come to the Premier League, could he deal with that? Could he develop into that player? Please let me know in the comments below if you think this would be a good deal for Chelsea. Next, I want to talk about Dries Mertens, because he has been linked to Chelsea once more. We know that Chelsea were going in for him in the January transfer window and wanted to make that deal happen. James Horncastle, who's really well connected in terms of Italian football journalist, he talked about Chelsea trying to make that deal happen on deadline day, but apparently Napoli just wanted too much for him, a high fee, considering he hasn't got much left on his contract. It just didn't make much financial sense to Chelsea, so they thought, we'll wait till the summer and then we can get him potentially as a free agent and don't have to go through Napoli to sign him. Now we've got some quotes from Sport Witness from a journalist, Paolo Pagnini. He said, Mertens leaving. If he went away, Napoli could place a double shot, sign 2 players instead of the one attacker they're expected to. Inter Milan and Chelsea have relaunched on the Belgian, offering him a higher salary. This is reported, of course, and as well, I know Arsenal have been linked as well. Mertens is a player that hasn't been talked about as much when we talk about potential signings in the striker area. I think he'd be a really good signing, especially if, say, Olivier Giroud leaves. I think if you're looking for sort of that older, more experienced striker, his European pedigree is incredible. You know, when you look at what he's done for Napoli over a number of years, one of their most, I think he's going to go down as one of the most iconic strikers. You know, he's so loved over there. And to bring in this player, I think to help a player like Tammy Abraham, especially in the Champions League, I think could be really beneficial to Chelsea. And considering he's a free agent and you probably don't have to go through Napoli to sign him, it will be a high salary, but I think it would be worth it. And considering the next player I'm going to talk about, there potentially be space for Mertens, absolutely. I think it maybe depends on Mertens, what he wants in his career. With a lot of these players, will Mertens want to move country? You know, would he want to stay in Italy and go to Inter Milan? You know, would he want to stay in Serie A where he feels comfortable, where he's played for a lot of his career now? Then moving over to the Premier League, and he could struggle maybe to get first team minutes regularly, like he has been a guaranteed starter for Napoli for a number of years, one of their key men. Or would they want to look to a younger striker now in a Dembele, in a Martinez, in a Timo Werner? That's what we're going to have to wait and see. I would personally like Mertens. I think he would be a really good option, because I think when we're looking at sort of the high prices of some of those younger strikers, if this summer is going to be really difficult to recruit players, Mertens might be the best option for Chelsea, especially if the pandemic really sort of screws with the transfer window and what Chelsea can spend, and if clubs want to sell. I think when you got a free agent like that, I think Chelsea would be really smart to try and snap him up. Even if he is older in age, I think he could still offer a lot to our striking department. Please let me know your opinions on Mertens in the comments below. And lastly, another striker, a Chelsea striker, Michy Bathsauyi. Le Temps Sport in France are claiming that Marseille want to bring Michy back to his former club. Batshuayi is a player I haven't heard a lot about in terms of him leaving. I think for me, when I did my buy and sell video in terms of this summer, Batshuayi was a player I thought would be leaving Chelsea this summer. I just think it makes sense. I think it is time to cut ties with Michy Bathsauyi. I think at the age of 26, all the chances he's been given, he has been given chances. But I think Frank Lampard at times during the season, you know, starting him against Man United when he could have started Olivier Giroud, you know, that was a big frustration for fans. And that was a massive opportunity for Michy Bathsauyi. This season, I think, was the biggest chance for Batshuayi to make himself Chelsea's first striker, and he just hasn't taken it, you know, and there's been frustration with coaches throughout his Chelsea career. It probably would feel like a little bit of a complete circle for Michy Bathsauyi if he was to leave and go back to the club he arrived to Chelsea in 2016. Of course, we have seen loan moves for him, Crystal Palace, Borussia Dortmund. I think what we've seen with the likes of Timmy Bakayoko and Danny Drinkwater and players like that, what you could see happen is a loan to a permanent move that I think would happen, considering his wages, considering the fee that Chelsea would want for him. I think that would be something that could be an issue for any potential buyers of Michy Bathsauyi. Because you don't think any top six club, I think, would come in for him. You're sort of looking at maybe the next tier down, and of course Marseille would be that. You know, personally for him as well, it's going out there, getting more minutes, you know, starting games, and hopefully for his sake, he can have a good career still, and still compete, still get in the Belgium squad like he has regularly. But I just think at Chelsea, I think it's time to move in a new direction, like we have, and like we should be doing in other areas as well. Just refreshing that area, I think it's time for Michy to leave. But please let me know your opinions. Where do you think would be a good place for Michy to leave? Do you think Michy will be leaving this summer, or do you think he'll stay for one more season at Chelsea? Please let me know in the comments below. But that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch it. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.